people are not willing to stand on principle and integrity as opposed to just being on one team and being hard on the other team and somebody else on the other team being hard on the other team. Right and wrong cuts deeper than the team.
But
She's talking about what's right and what's wrong.
Professor West, does she have the right to sue?
Well, she didn't sue because
Sure, she has the right to sue. Of course she has the right to sue.
Is she justified doing it?
She has the right to do it, and it goes through a process, and we see whether it's right or whether it's wrong.
No, she wasn't justified. No, what do you mean? Wrongful death is what she sued her state sued for.
But people can sue for anything and be wrong,
I understand that, but I'm saying he was cleared in those investigations.
The officer who shot Ashli Babbitt was cleared by 3 separate investigations. Trump called him a thug. His Justice Department just paid her family $5 million taxpayer dollars. The officers who were beaten defending Congress that day got nothing. Not a settlement. Not a phone call. Welcome to the debate chase. Today we break down the panel where Harry Dunn and Dr. Cornel West named what this settlement actually is. Let's get into it.
Pay nearly $5 million to the family of Ashli Babbitt. She is the MAGA rioter who was shot and killed by police after she breached the Capitol on January 6th. The officer who was involved was later cleared of criminal wrongdoing. In a statement today, the Capitol Police Chief said he is disappointed with the settlement and that it, quote, sends a chilling message to law enforcement nationwide, especially to those with a protective mission like ours. Joining us in our 5th seat at the table is Harry Dunn, a former U.S. Capitol Police officer who was there on January 6th. Harry, great to see you. Thanks for being here. Look, this is unbelievable in a way, especially if you were there. We covered it. To see this moment rewarded with a $5 million settlement, when we checked, we tried to see, were there officers who were injured, those who died as a result of their injuries or other aspects of their service on January 6th? Did they get anything? No settlements for those folks.
Not even money, but just even an acknowledgement. I'm just thinking about Brian Signick. His mother still waiting for a call from the president. Look, it's under no circumstances, should anybody's death be celebrated or somebody lost their daughter, somebody lost a sister, a mother, and it's unfortunate that somebody lost their life there. But what message does it send that an individual, if she lived, she would have been charged. She would have been charged with a crime. She would have been a criminal. What message does that send out there to not just everyday citizens, but to people other criminals at the Capitol who may have been sprayed by police or may have been hit by police? Do they get to sue and now be rewarded because their record's clean with Donald Trump pardoning them?
Yeah, I mean, those are important sort of downstream effects of all this. I mean, does this open the door, Scott, to all these other people suing the police officers that they assaulted?
Yeah, I mean, he raises legitimate questions. I mean, it's a tragic situation because someone died. And it's also a tragic situation because brave police officers were put in harm's way. I'm very defensive of police officers. I back the blue. I think police officers protect us and deserve our support and our admiration. So that's my view. Look, they were asking for 30. They got 5. I don't know all the facts internally. I've just seen the reporting about whether they thought maybe a jury would side with her. I don't know.
But isn't this?
But I don't. So it's hard for me to know what facts they were looking at internally about what litigation might have produced. But it is in my opinion, a tragic situation for everyone. The person who died, the police officer who was involved, who by the way was vindicated in internal reports and internal investigations.
Well, that's the point that I want to make. So it was a wrongful death settlement. What was wrong then? If he wasn't charged, he was cleared in multiple investigations. What was wrong?
I am a supporter of the police, but my support of the police doesn't only occur.
Let's start with the facts on the ground, because they are not in dispute and they are damning. Ashli Babbitt was shot while breaching the Capitol during an armed insurrection. The officer who fired was cleared of wrongdoing by 3 separate investigations: the FBI, the Capitol Police, and the Metropolitan Police. 0 evidence of misconduct. Had Babbitt survived, she would have faced criminal charges. The people who were there alongside her, who beat police officers with flagpoles, crushed officers in door frames, deployed chemical sprays, were pardoned by the same president whose Justice Department just handed her family $5 million. Harry Dunn, who defended that building, who was there when his colleagues were being attacked, put the contrast plainly. Capitol Police officers who were injured, who suffered traumatic brain injuries, who lost colleagues, who have lived with the psychological and physical damage of that day. They received no settlements. Brian Sicknick's mother is still waiting for a phone call from the president. The people who attacked law enforcement got pardons. The family of the woman who breached the building got $5 million in taxpayer money. And the party calling itself the Party of Law and Order is defending all of it simultaneously.
It's mistreatment.
Exactly.
According to the settlement, she is.
Well, of course.
But see, the
Okay,
question
the
here, though, is,
settlement-
but it's not a question of just money. It's a question of what is right and what is wrong.
Well, I'll give
If
you-
Trump is willing to pay this money, are you willing to say that Trump is wrong on this issue?
But
Well, I don't know if the president was involved in it or not.
He's willing to pay the
Well,
money.
let me
It's a
let me
question of
just
principle,
let me just
though,
read to
Brother
you
Scott.
what
It's
he
not a
what
question
he
of how
said
much
about.
money, because let me just say this.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is it's hard for us to be able to generate the kind of bonds of trust that we must have if people are not willing to stand on principle and integrity as opposed to just being on one team and being hard on the other team and somebody else on the other team being hard on the other team. Right and wrong cuts deeper than the team.
But
She's talking
does
about
she
what's
have the right
right
to sue?
That's
and
a
what's
fair-
wrong.
Professor West, does she have the right to sue?
She didn't sue because
Sure,
she's
she
not
has the
accused.
right to sue. Of course she has the
Is
right
she
to sue.
justified doing it?
She has the right to do it, and it goes through a process, and we see whether it's right or whether it's
and
wrong.
No, she wasn't justified. No, what do you mean? Wrongful death is what she sued her state sued for.
But people can sue for anything and be wrong,
I
though,
understand
brother.
that, but I'm saying he was cleared in those investigations.
Right,
So
that's
what
right.
was wrongful? An investigation by the FBI and Capitol Police and Metropolitan Police turned up zero
She had no evidence.
wrongdoing.
No evidence.
So what is wrong?
Here's what he said about the officer actually who shot Ashli Babbitt. He said the police officer thug who had a very checkered past to begin with was not just doing his job when he shot and killed great patriot Ashli Babbitt at point blank range. And then he says that she was murdered. He called the officer a thug who was there protecting members of Congress, Democrat and Republican. The thing about the Ashli Babbitt situation is that we actually saw it. We saw the tape of it.
Absolutely.
We saw that they were trying to break into the chambers where lawmakers were hiding for their lives.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
That happened because he was protecting our elected leaders. That is not within question here.
Republicans
Abby,
and Democrats.
here in New York, routinely, Democratic elected officials routinely call the members of the NYPD thugs, jackbooted
That's not
pigs.
right either.
I'm just saying. The point I'm trying to make is why do we always treat this one incident with a different lens than the broader issue of the police being
Because it's the largest
assaulted?
assault on law enforcement in the history of the United
But
States.
is it being? But
no,
is it,
it probably
Joe,
isn't. It probably isn't.
But Joe, is it really being?
I'm not trying to
treated-
one-up you there.
Is it
I'm
really?
just
Is
saying.
it really being treated with a different lens, except by the people who are running for office on a back the blue
You're
platform?
talking to me.
I
I'm
mean,
here.
yeah.
I'm
No,
not-
no, that's
I'm
what I'm
not with
saying. I think that the only look on January 7th, there was almost unanimity that this was an awful day, that the people who were involved in it should be prosecuted. Almost everybody agreed with that. The only reason that that changed is because Donald Trump wanted it to change. And because Donald Trump was on the other side of that issue, all the back the blue people have changed their stance. I agree with you that people should be consistent, but I think the lack of consistency is not where you think it is.
I think there were definitely people who were completely overcharged for their participation. I think people that assaulted police officers on video, on camera, easily provable, should be punished and should spend time in jail. I'm consistent, right? I said the same thing last segment when we were talking about the
Right.
Congresswoman. I'm saying the same
I
thing
mean,
this
look,
segment.
if you were in the Oval Office, I think maybe we'd be having a different conversation, but Donald Trump is
Let's
in the
hope.
Oval Office. He has pardoned all.
Scott Jennings attempted the comparison that should not have survived contact with the facts on this panel. He cited New York City settlements paid to people who alleged police mistreatment during the George Floyd protests, arguing that this kind of settlement happens all the time and should not be shocking. The response was direct and correct. Those cases went through independent legal processes. A jury or settlement process evaluated the evidence and made a determination. The Babbitt settlement did not work that way. This money was dispensed by the administration of the man who incited the insurrection, who called the officer who stopped a breach of the legislative chambers a thug, who described Babbitt as a murdered patriot, who pardoned the people who attacked the officers Jennings claims to support. There was no independent body. There was no neutral legal determination. There was Donald Trump paying $5 million of public money to the family of a woman he had spent years glorifying, while the officers who survived that day watched from the outside. Dr. Cornel West delivered the moral framework that the panel needed. The problem is not just this specific settlement. The problem is what it represents about how power is currently operating. When society becomes organized around might makes right, around transaction and manipulation, around survival of the slickest, the rule of law stops meaning what it is supposed to mean. The Constitution stops functioning as a restraint on power and starts functioning as a document that powerful people invoke when convenient and ignore when not. He said it without flinching. It is hard to build the bonds of trust a functioning society requires when people are not willing to stand on principle, when right and wrong are subordinated to team loyalty, when the standard shifts depending on who is being protected. Right and wrong cuts deeper than the team. That should be a simple statement. In the current moment, it reads like a warning. Harry Dunn closed with the most powerful thing he said. Turn off the news. Turn off every pundit, every commentator, every person trying to tell you what to think about January 6th. Press play. Watch the footage on mute. Watch what happened in those halls. Watch officers being beaten. Watch the breach of the chambers where lawmakers were hiding. Watch Ashli Babbitt climbing through the broken window. You do not need anyone's opinion. You need your own eyes. And anybody who watches that footage and calls those people patriots, and then takes $5 million in taxpayer money to compensate the family of one of them, has already told you everything you need to know about where their loyalty actually lies.
When you have larger patterns of might makes right, of Pontius Pilate over Jesus, of Thrasymachus over Socrates, people figure it's all transaction, it's all manipulation, it's all the survival of the slickest. Once you have that dominant in your society, after a while, it doesn't make any difference what's on the books because nobody is taking the book seriously anyway. Rule of law doesn't mean that much. Constitution doesn't mean that much. Quality relations doesn't mean that much.
Harry,
Conversations don't mean that.
Do
It's
you
just power,
feel
power,
that way?
power.
The rule of law has less meaning now?
Last week being National Police Week, the White House tweeted whatever it is. We support and will never betray our men and women in law. Which ones? The ones that voted for you? Like this is about right and wrong. And like you could turn off all the talking heads. You can turn off all the news, everybody's opinion about January 6th. Hell, watch it on mute. Just press play. Just press play. Everybody watched and had a front row seat to watch what happened with Ashli Babbitt, to watch what happened to everybody in the Capitol that day.
Here is what should stay with you. Donald Trump called the officer who stopped the breach of the United States Capitol a thug. He called the woman the officer stopped a great patriot and said she was murdered. His Justice Department paid her family $5 million taxpayer dollars. His administration pardoned the people who attacked the officers that day. And his most prominent defenders, the people who campaign on Back the Blue, who perform reverence for law enforcement at every available opportunity, have said nothing that holds up under a single direct question. Harry Dunn said something that deserves to be heard clearly. Ashli Babbitt would not have been in that building if Donald Trump had accepted the result of the election. The $5 million being paid out of the public treasury exists because one man chose a lie over the country. The moral logic of Dr. West applies here with full force. A society that has normalized this, where the people who attacked law enforcement get pardoned and paid, and the people who defended it get nothing, is a society where the rule of law has already lost significant ground. Press play. That is all it takes. Just press play. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this settlement will open the door to more lawsuits from January 6th participants against the officers who stopped them? And what does it tell you about the blue movement that it has been completely silent on this? Subscribe to the debate, Chaz. We will keep watching and we will keep saying what we see.